fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty hi-yo silver, the Lone Ranger. With his faithful Indian companion Tonto, the daring and resourceful masked rider of the plains led the fight for law and order in the early western United States. Nowhere in the pages of history can one find a greater champion of justice. Return with us now to those thrilling days of yesteryear. From out of the past come the thundering hoofbeats of the great horse Silver. The Lone Ranger rides again.
Come on, Silver. Let's go, big fellow. I'll Silver! Away!
Tubby Morgan, notorious outlaw leader, was so called because of his roly-poly figure and well-rounded face, which gave him an almost jovial and friendly appearance. To those who looked closely, there was a cold, hard look in his colorless eyes that belied the jolly features. For Tubby Morgan was a ruthless killer, even though his flabby lips were usually spread in a smile, and chuckling laughter rolled from his expansive depths at the least provocation. In spite of his widespread reputation, people never suspected who he was until he was ready for action. For instance, when Tubby had entered a cafe in El Paso...
Howdy, stranger. What'll you have?
Well, what you sell the most of, mister. I reckon then I'll be sure I won't get poisoned, huh? Yeah, you'd have to get plenty of help to drag my carcass out of here if that happened.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I reckon you're right about that. Yeah, try this. Never killed nobody yet, though it come close.
Take a lot of those to fill you up, fatty.
Look, partner, I'm mighty resentful of any hombre who calls me that, savvy?
Now, stranger, I didn't mean
If you have to talk to me, you can call me by my regular name. Tubby.
Tubby? Sure. I reckon there isn't much difference between that and what I called you.
Except my name is Tubby, not Fatty. I just wanted to set you straight, mister.
By thunder, you're sure a good sport, Tubby. That does an hombre good to meet up with a friendly fella like you, eh, boy?
Tubby's all right. Sure knows how to laugh.
Yeah, it's good to see somebody enjoying life.
Well, I leave the scowling to other folks. I do the laughing. I reckon things don't seem as funny to them as they do to me at times.
You just passing through, Tubby?
Yeah. I stopped in to wait for some friends of mine. They ought to be here any minute. I hope you feel as friendly with them as you do with me.
An hombre like you must have friends who laugh easy. They couldn't help it when they just hear you laugh. Yes, sir, we need more hombres out here who don't take life too serious. It's tough enough without being down and... By thunder, I'm a deputy sheriff.
You better reach too, partner.
You? Holding a gun on me? Say, what is this?
We might as well go about this hold-up friendly-like. These are the friends I was waiting for. All right, you and the boys get busy, Slim. Me and the deputy are having a friendly visit over here.
Heard what Tubby said, boys. Get busy. Line them up, and the first one that objects, give him lead.
Well, it don't look as if any of them's going to die laughing, deputy? All right, clean them out, Slim. Clean them out. Leave a quarter on the counter for the refreshments I had. I don't want to cheat the house. No. Tubby Morgan always pays for what he gets.
Great day. You're that low-down outlaw, Tubby Morgan. I won't let you get away with this.
Oh, yes, you will, partner. All right, hurry it up, Slim. These hombres don't seem to want to laugh anymore.
Tubby Morgan and his outlaw gang had robbed and killed many times as they moved southward. One day, the Lone Ranger and his Indian companion Tonto were riding the trail southward toward San Antonio. The Lone Ranger was saying,
Tonto, Tubby Morgan and his gang must be around here, from all the reports we've had lately.
That's right. Them say Fat Man head gang that hold up bank in Red Hill 2 days ago.
That was Morgan, all right. He and his gang are wanted for more than one killing. They're terrorizing the whole territory. They must be stopped before there are more murders.
Him plenty smart feller, seem like.
Yes, he must be. In spite of the fact that his description and reputation has spread over the territory, he still manages to avoid capture. We're not very far from San Antonio now. We'll find a suitable campsite. Then we'll do what we can to pick up the trail of Tubby Morgan's gang. Come on, Silver!
Let's come.
after they had selected a campsite in a secluded grove, they decided to rest their horses a few hours before trying to find the gang's trail. Meantime, Tubby Morgan and his men, a few miles away, turned from the trail toward a small farmhouse.
Well, Slim, this neat-looking farmhouse of your sister's will make a fine hideout. You sure she can be trusted?
You don't think she'd get her own brother into trouble, do you, Tubby? Anyway, she and her husband skipped from the law in St. Louis after she helped him with a bank robbery.
Where's he now?
Got killed when he was caught cheating in a gambling game in El Paso a few years back. She bought this small farmhouse down here, and she's known as a respectable widow, the Widow Logan.
Well, she ought to be a big help to us then.
Yeah, but she'll expect to be paid well.
Well, it's all right with me.
Hi there, Slim.
Hi, Lil. We finally got here.
Letty, you said you'd be here sometime this week, so I got everything ready.
Lil, meet Tubby Morgan and the boys.
Howdy, boys. Tubby, nobody'd ever take you for an outlaw. Leastwise, you sure don't look like one.
Well, that's why me and the gang get away with so much, Lil. What's the setup here?
Put the horses back in the barn. I have 2 spare rooms in the house. You and Slim will have one, and there are 4 cots in the other for the rest of the boys. I lease out most of my land to a neighbor and buy what supplies I need in town. So, you see, I don't have any cowhands around and knows into our business.
Well, that's fine. Setup is perfect.
Go on, put up your horses, then come on inside. We'll do our talking in there.
All right. Hey, let's go, boys. Get up there. Get up.
After the horses had been attended to, the gang gathered in the farmhouse, where Tubby immediately began to make plans for their next job. He was saying,
There's a lot of wealth in and around San Antonio, and I figure the First National Bank is bulging with cash. It'll take a bulgy hombre like me to relieve him of some of that dinero.
When do you expect to pull the bank job, Tubby?
Tomorrow at noon. That's when most folks are eating dinner, and there'll be only a few in the bank to handle.
Wait a minute. Let me tell you something important.
Hey, go ahead, Lil.
The First National is bigger than most banks hereabouts.
What if it is?
Yeah, bigger the better.
Now, hold on and listen. That bank has a guard inside near the door day and night. What's more, the sheriff's office is right across the street.
Well, that isn't so good. Maybe we better forget it, boy.
No, we're not forgetting it. Fact is, Lil, I'm going to dress up real neat and fancy. You and me will go in ahead of the others, and we'll visit the sheriff first.
You must be loco. The sheriff will recognize you.
Sure.
Handbills are out all over this territory, boss.
Sure. Those handbills carry my description. They don't have any picture of me. You boys will saunter into the bank one at a time after you see me and Lil go in. Those hombres in San Antonio are sure going to be surprised. All right, now listen, all of you. I'll give you all the details how this job is going to be worked. First, Lil and I'll leave here in her buckboard. Ride into town ahead of the rest.
While Tubby Morgan and his gang were talking over the plans for robbing the bank, the Lone Ranger and Tonto rode to the outskirts of town. Tonto spent some time hoping to get news of the gang. Then, after buying a few supplies, he returned to the secluded place where the masked man was waiting.
Oh, Scout. Oh, fella.
Oh, any news of interest, Tonto?
No. No, me not hear any news. Men in cafe not mention Morgan gang. Maybe them not stop in San Antonio.
Maybe not. But we'll stay a day or two longer. We do know they headed in this direction.
That's right. Me got supplies and saddlebags.
Good. We'll go back to camp for the night. In the morning, we'll try again to find the trail of the Morgan gang. Here, Silver. Easy, steady, big fella. Come on, Silver.
Get him up, Scout.
Late the following morning, Lil, dressed as a sedate and respectable widow, drove into town with Tubby Morgan beside her on the seat of the buckboard. Tubby was dressed in a plain black suit and wore a fancy checkered vest from which a heavy gold watch chain looped across his expansive middle. Lil stopped the buckboard in front of the sheriff's office.
Whoa there, whoa. I don't mind saying, Tubby, I feel a little nervous.
Well, get hold of yourself, Lil. We both act our parts well, we'll really strike it rich. Hey, come on, I see the sheriff looking out the window.
Oh.
Here, let me help you, Lil.
All right.
Well, here we are, Mrs. Logan.
Good morning, Sheriff.
Well, howdy, Sheriff.
Morning. Well, you seem familiar to me somehow, mister. Fact is,
Sheriff, this is a friend of my deceased husband. Let me introduce Mr. Temple. He might buy a ranch near here if he likes the country.
Well, I'm right glad to meet you, Sheriff.
Thanks. Same here. Now, as I was saying,
I knew it, Mrs. Logan, I knew it. I'll bet he's sort of thinking the same thing as that sheriff up in Waco thought.
Maybe so. Oh, great day, Mr. Temple. It'd be downright embarrassing for you if you didn't have such a good sense of humor.
I reckon I just don't savvy all this, ma'am.
Sheriff, it sure strikes me mighty funny, the way people seem to think there's only one fat man down this way. Why, would you believe it, I went into the bank in Waco on the way here, and they up and run for the sheriff, thinking I was some outlaw or other. Tubby, somebody, they said.
By thunder, I was thinking of Tubby Morgan, too, when I looked at you.
Why, it's really ridiculous.
It sure is, but it's getting tiresome explaining to folks that I'm just a plain fat hombre with plenty of cash to buy cattle with. See here.
Oh. Yeah, that's sure a big roll of yellowbacks, Mr. Temple.
Too big to be carrying around, I can tell you. Especially with me not carrying a gun. The fact is, I have the darndest time keeping a gun belt from slipping down around my ankles.
I can see what you mean. Well, yeah. I reckon fitting the description of that outlaw Morgan is sort of embarrassing to a man like you.
Yes, it is.
Of course, now that you've been introduced by the widow Logan and seeing how you dress and not having a gun and all, wouldn't be likely that you'd be Tubby.
Well, the reason I asked to meet you, Sheriff, is because I don't want any excitement over at the bank this time when I go to put in my cash. I thought you'd come along with Mrs. Logan and me so as I can save time and trouble.
Well, reckon I can go with you. Old man DeWitt would probably swallow his Adam's apple if you walked in on him cold. He's got a handbill on Morgan.
Well, I sure appreciate the trouble you're taking on yourself, Sheriff.
Well, that's all right. Reckon I'm safe in saying I know the widow wouldn't be hobnobbing with you if you were that killer Tubby Morgan. Now, come on. I'll take you right into Banker DeWitt's office over at that bank.
The curtain falls on the first act of our Lone Ranger adventure. Before the next exciting scenes, please permit us to pause for just a few moments. to continue. Following Tubby Morgan's plan, Lil and Tubby went directly to the sheriff and put on such a convincing act that the sheriff agreed to accompany them to the bank to meet Banker DeWitt. The three of them walked across the street and entered the bank, going directly to Banker DeWitt's office.
This is DeWitt's office right here.
Yes, who's there?
It's me, Sheriff Hodge.
Come on in, Sheriff.
Mr. DeWitt, brought a new client in for you. Friend of Mrs. Logan's. This is Mr. Temple.
Well, how do you do, Mr. Temple? Say, you... Well, now...
Yeah, we know just what you mean. Temple's run into that trouble before because he answers somewhat to the description of Tubby Morgan.
Well, now, Sheriff, I didn't say I thought...
Well, if you didn't, Mr. DeWitt, I'd be surprised. You know, someday maybe I'll get a good look at that hombre. Maybe it'd be like looking into a mirror, huh?
Of course, you know Mrs. Logan.
Oh, yes, of course. Glad to see you, madam.
Hello, Mr. DeWitt.
Mr. Temple came in to deposit a wad of yellow bag bills. Wad big enough to choke a buffalo, almost.
Yeah, here's the cash he's talking about.
They were all still standing as Tubby pulled out a roll of bills and placed it on the desk before the banker. Lil stood just a little to one side, but in front of the sheriff. She watched the door intently. Then, seeing it sneak open, she moved directly in front of the sheriff, exclaiming,
Look, at the door, two masked outlaws.
Catch her, Sheriff. Quick, she's fainted.
I got her. Great day, she's right. Look there.
Quiet, all of you, in reach. We got you covered.
Now, see here.
I'll grab the sheriff's gun. It's too bad that lady fainted in your arms, Sheriff. Close the door, Luke, and come here and tie him up with that cord you brought.
Sure. I'll take Fatty first. Sit down, fat boy, so's I can rope you to the chair.
Woman's out cold, so she don't have to be tied. Let's get busy.
Not long after, Tonto, who had been in town at the cafe, rode hurriedly to the camp where the Lone Ranger was waiting.
Oh, fella. Easy, Scout. Easy,
Otto, I can tell something happened by the way you rode into camp.
Outlaws hold up bank in town, and them get way.
Morgan's gang?
Them say it not Morgan gang. Leader gang, tall, slim.
Oh, where was the sheriff?
Him inside banker's office. Him get tied up.
I see. Tell me all you know about it.
Briefly, Tonto told what had happened and how the outlaws had operated. The Lone Ranger listened intently, then said,
You say the sheriff took two friends to meet the banker. They were in the office when it occurred?
That right. Them say sheriff go there with man and woman. Woman faint when her see masked outlaws. When sheriff keep her from falling, outlaws get drop on him.
I see. And the man who went in with the sheriff was robbed of a large amount of cash?
That right. Him feller named Temple. Me hear him say. Outlaws tie 'em all up except woman. Then them leave. Get plenty cash from bank.
We'll go see if we can pick up the trail of that gang, Tonto. All right, let's hurry. Easy, steady, big fellow.
Easy, Scout, easy.
Come on, Silver!
The Lone Ranger and Tonto left camp and rode toward town to pick up the trail of the outlaw gang. As they rounded a bend in the trail, they came face to face with the sheriff and the posse.
Look, that posse. That's not good.
Oh, we'll have to stop. Oh, Silver.
Oh, go, fella.
Don't move, either of you. We got you covered.
They must be a couple of the gang.
Yeah, that one still has a mask on.
We not outlaws.
Keep your hands up. That mask he's wearing says you're outlaws. We'll take 'em back to town, men.
Now, wait, Sheriff. What Tonto said is true. We aren't outlaws. If we had been, we'd have drawn when we saw you.
Maybe and maybe not. With so many of us, you wouldn't have had a chance to get away.
That's right, we wouldn't.
We ought to shoot them down right here. Why bother taking them back? What are we waiting for?
Sheriff, we're here to help find that gang. All right, Silver.
Now, why in blazes would a masked hombre be willing to... Hey, wait a minute. Didn't I hear you call that Indian Tonto? And your horse Silver?
That's right.
What kind of bullets do you use, mister?
Silver bullets.
Hey, why the palaver?
Yeah, what's this all about?
Hold on, man. I've heard of an hombre who wears a mask, rides a white stallion, carries silver bullets, rides with an Indian called Tonto, calls his horse Silver. By thunder, mister, you must be the Lone Ranger.
That's right, Sheriff.
Doggone it, why didn't you say so in the first place?
I doubt you'd have believed me. Sheriff, I heard about the bank robbery. I've been thinking about something I heard.
What's that?
The woman. It was convenient for the outlaws when she fainted and fell against you, wasn't it?
Sure was.
I could have drawn my gun if that hadn't happened. But Mrs. Logan is all right. We all know her.
Sure, Mrs.
And the man who was robbed, what was he like?
Yeah, it's a funny thing. He came to me first before going to the bank because he said he'd been took for Tubby Morgan a couple times before. Didn't want to be embarrassed again. Looked like what Tubby's supposed to look like, too.
That's interesting.
Of course, seeing as how he lost a wad of money himself, he couldn't have been with that gang.
If he had been one of the gang, he could easily get it back later.
Why, sure he could.
Say, that's right.
I'd like to suggest that we go to that woman's place and get more information about the man.
All right with me, mister. She doesn't leave far from here. Let's go. Get up there.
Get him up.
Meantime, at the farmhouse, Tubby stood ready to mount his saddle horse. He was talking to Lil.
I told the boys not to come back here, you know. I'm to meet them at that old shack Slim knew about back in the hollow.
You sure put one over on the bank today, Tubby.
Yeah, we sure did. Slim will come back tonight with your share of what you did, Lil. If anyone comes asking about me, just say Mr. Temple headed for Austin. That he was afraid the outlaws might come back and take more of his cash.
I'll get rid of him, don't worry. Goodbye, and good luck, Tubby.
Goodbye. I'll see you again sometime. Get up, come on.
Half an hour later, the Lone Ranger and Tonto with the sheriff and the posse pulled rein at the farmhouse. Lil came out to meet them.
Howdy, Mrs. Logan.
Howdy, Sheriff.
We'd like to see Mr. Temple for a moment.
Mr. Temple? The poor man decided to go away from this territory before he lost more of his cashed outlaws. He was quite upset about that holdup. Who's that masked man?
A friend. Where did Temple head for, ma'am?
Austin.
Which trail did he take? Do you know?
Why, Oh, yes, he took the west trail. I watched as he turned to the right out there. That would take him to the west trail.
Thanks. Let's go, Sheriff. One silver.
When they reached the main trail, the Lone Ranger suggested a halt.
What do you think, mister?
On the way into the farmhouse, Sheriff, Todd and I noticed fresh, deep hoof prints, evidently made by a galloping horse.
That's right. Tracks come out here to main trail.
All right, look. There. Those hoof marks turn to the left toward the foothills, not to the right toward the west trail, as Mrs. Logan told us.
By golly, that's so. What do you make of that?
She lied for some reason, and I'm beginning to guess what it is. I think it would be wise to follow those tracks right now.
All right, that's what we'll do. Let's go.
Sure.
Get up.
One silver.
After riding a short time, the posse finally followed the tracks to a secluded hollow, in which, as they topped a rise, they could see a weather-beaten shack. The sheriff signaled a halt.
By thunder, I bet that gang is holed up down in there. See several horses behind that shack.
They didn't think it necessary to post a guard.
We'll ride right down there and take them by surprise.
No, that wouldn't work, Sheriff. I'm convinced Tubby Morgan is there with them. They'd escape out the back way.
Tubby Morgan, you say?
Yes, I believe Temple was really Tubby. Those are his tracks that we followed here.
By golly, that's right. That woman must...
She was helping them. Now, if you say so, Todd and I'll ride closer, then go on foot to the back of that shack and drive off their horses. Then we'll keep them from leaving as the rest of you move in.
Good idea.
Sounds good.
We'll wait here and watch till we see you drive off the horses.
Inside the shack, Tubby was telling the gang about how well his plan had worked at the bank.
By thunder, you ought to see the faces on the sheriff and that banker when Slim and Luke moved in. And it was a scream to see Lil flop back in the sheriff's arms.
The sheriff was too surprised to know what to do. Imagine Tubby Morgan having the sheriff take him right into the bank so he could rob it. Oh, that's rich.
Hey, something's bothering the horses out back. Get your guns, we'll see.
Hey, the horses are gone.
Yeah, we better get away from here fast.
We're not leaving, Tubby.
Inside, quick. All right, get to the windows.
Hey, a lot of horses are coming, sounds like.
Must be a posse. Help me find it.
Throw that at them. Keep shooting.
The men in the shack fought furiously. The Lone Ranger and Tonto managed to sneak up on the shack and reach one of the back windows. Just as Tubby aimed at the sheriff outside through one of the side windows, the Lone Ranger fired. Moving through the sagebrush, the men of the posse gradually crept closer until they were able to rush the front door. Then they burst inside. For a few minutes, the battle waxed fast and furious at close quarters. Then, with 4 wounded, the outlaws finally threw down their guns in defeat.
Well, at last we got the Morgan gang.
Don't forget that woman, Sheriff. She's in this, too.
Hey, leave my sister out of this.
Your sister, eh? That explains a lot. We'll pick her up on the way back.
We'll not be riding back with you, Sheriff. Our trail goes the other way from here. We're heading north.
We're sure glad you came along to help. Goodbye and good luck, mister.
Thanks, Sheriff. We're glad we were able to help. Tubby Morgan is more dangerous to the west than most other outlaws because he played upon the friendliness of the people to gain their trust. Then he robbed or killed them. We'll be leaving now, Tonto. Adios, Sheriff.
Adios. He sure helped us find these polecats in a hurry.
Yeah, who's he to be shooting off his mouth about me anyway? Looks like an owl hoot himself with that mask gun.
By wearing that mask, you might say he fights fire with fire, Tubby Morgan. You coyotes wear masks to do harm, while he wears his to do good and help the law. Patty, that hombre is the Lone Ranger.
This is a feature of the Lone Ranger Incorporated, created by George W. Trendle, produced by Trendle Campbell Enterprises, directed by Charles D. Livingston, and edited by Fran Stryker. The part of the Lone Ranger is played by Brace Beamer.